I think you need to be able to be honest with yourself and articulate, maybe on paper, what it is that you're really feeling, knowing that the sun is going to come up the next day. You have to grieve, but you also have to find pieces of sunshine to put in your life whenever you can. My name is Gail Petrowsky. I'm a transformational life coach. I'm thrilled to have Jill and Dava here today. They're my daughters.
My name is Jill Petrowsky, and I am a mortgage loan originator. I got started in the mortgage industry because of my father. I started in the business as an administrative assistant, kind of working my way through high school. And I went to college for human services and social work. Quickly realized that that wasn't where I wanted to be. I was doing more social work in the mortgage business than I was, in actual social work in that field. So I then moved to being a processor and then a compliance officer. So I kind of learned the mortgage business from ground roots up. Decided it was time to be a mortgage loan officer. I dragged my feet for so long and decided I really wanted to help my father. So I took the test and I passed, and he was thrilled. And unfortunately, a few months later, he unexpectedly passed away. So I wasn't sure I was going to stay in the industry. I had to do a lot of, figuring things out. It was a traumatic time. And I decided to stay in the business when my phone kept ringing with clients of his that needed guidance. Getting into a business full steam ahead when you're going through grief and trauma is definitely not the easiest. I almost had to put my grief aside, which might have not have been the healthiest thing at that time, but I needed to full steam ahead in this business. And I wanted to make my father proud. He might not have been here anymore, but I knew he was watching. I wanted to make sure that I honored his clients and I did things the right way. And my dad always had a way of saving the underdog. And I wanted to make sure that I followed suit with that. So even though it was scary, and even though I was facing fear, I had to overcome that. I had a crash course in the mortgage business because really I was just getting my feet wet as a loan officer when he passed away. So I really just had to teach myself, get other guides to teach me and know that I was doing the right thing and keep going ahead. And eventually, it started to pay off when people were recognizing, okay, she knows some things. She can actually guide us in the right direction. And that takes the time for somebody to respect and realize that you know what you're doing in this industry and that you're trustworthy. And that's important. And that was something that meant a lot to him and it meant a lot to me.
My name is Dava. I am a general contractor. I have been in construction since 2009. Before that, I had a clothing line and I was a student at the Fashion Institute. I had a clothing line that I put all my thought and energy into and resources, which failed. And it was a very difficult thing to admit that this one wasn't going to work. And actually, I remember ironically having a conversation with my father about what to do. He said, "Have you ever thought about renovating houses?" And I said, "Wow, never really thought about it." He said, "Well, is it really that different than fashion?" And truth is, it's really not. It's texture, color, and user all the way. And I took a stab at my first flip and utilized some people that my parents worked with on their own renovations. And then after the next one, I started gathering my own team. And it just kind of grew from there. And I found there's a need for a person generally in between a homeowner and a contractor, and that I can fit that. I actually have a talent here and I really can get to it. I started doing some beautiful things and building some beautiful things. And at this point now, I have a strong enough team I could build a house from ground up. I started off as a special ed teacher. I always knew from the time I was a child that I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I knew there had to be a better way than the psychology courses and the degrees that I got
had to be a more impactful way of working with people so that they could get over the bumps in the road and some of the traumas that they experienced to get to the other side so they could live more optimally with more joy. But I was still searching for the right way to impact people so they didn't feel stuck while they were going through counseling or whatever you want to call it. Joe also took a number of seminars, and it was the way that our relationship and our marriage thrived, because we had to work on our own communication skills and how to resolve conflict within our own relationship so that we could do something together. And he was very supportive and very excited to be a part of some of the retreats that I designed. And I started off with 6 different seminars: a women's seminar, a men's seminar, and that's an interesting conversation, couple seminar, stress reduction, healing the inner child. I only designed a men's seminar probably after, 25 years of doing all these other workshops and seminars, and then one-on-ones with people, because Joe came to me and the other men came to me and said, you do women's seminars, you do couple seminars, you do stress reduction, you do all these things. When are you going to design a seminar for us? I said, you want me to design a seminar for men? They said yes. I ran into some bias and prejudice from other men who do men's workshops that actually called me when they found out that I was doing my first men's retreat to ask me, who do I think I am to be running a men's retreat? I said, well, I invite you to come to find out what it's all about. And then you can have any conversation you want with me. But to be prejudiced about what I'm going to do because you're running men's retreats, to me, that I don't understand where that's coming from. I knew that the men in my group were going to talk about their relationships, not just with themselves, but also their intimate relationships, and talk about their anger release, and talk about their relationships with their business associates. And when the first retreat happened, there were a group of men, and there were a couple of people who were very sensitive to being with other men. And a couple of men looked at me and said, I can't stay. I said, why? Well, I didn't know my banker was going to be here, or I didn't know my builder was going to be here. So the confidentiality, of course, is created. And the end result was amazing.
Hey everybody, it's Trudy Jacobson. Thank you for watching Great American Women, and thank you to the great ladies who have participated in this series. Now I'll let you get back to the show.
Oh, how did I meet Joe? I was 15. He was 17. I was at Camp Iapo in Somers, Connecticut, which was a YWCA camp. I was the swim instructor, and he was up a tree with another guy looking at the girls in their bathing suits on the athletic field. You asked me, I'm telling you. When my friend who was going to teach archery got sick, they called me out of the lake and they said, you've got to come and you got to teach these kids how to shoot a bow and arrow. I said, I don't know how to shoot a bow and arrow. I have no idea how to shoot a bow and arrow. They said, they're 6 years old. I think it'll be okay. So there I am. Shot a bow and arrow. You can't make this up. It almost grazed Joe in the tree. I never found the bow and arrow. Back then, he was able to walk into the camp to ask Libba, who was the camp director, who I was and my address, and she gave it to him. So he decided to call me and showed up, when I was done with camp. And the rest was history. My mom was very strict, so he had to date me up, and we were passionately, until the end, in love. We had this kind of relationship. I wrote about it after he died in a book called Live Your Optimal Life. And it was titled Embracing Courage Facing Loss. And I'm about to write a book about Joe and I, because it's a love story that could be made into a movie. Losing Joe, I lost a lot, and I had to learn how to survive, and become resilient. But the only way to do that is to be able to express your grief, allow it to immerse you. And that's what I did when the tidal waves came. And quite frankly, I don't think I would have gotten through it the way I got through it without these two. Their support has been everything, and some very, very, very close circle of friends that are supportive. As much as I'm doing and I'm out there, I got into a funk again, and I couldn't get out of it. I was really in a bad place. My daughter said to me, "Mom, what do you want to do for Dad's birthday?" I said, "You know what? This year, I really want to celebrate his life, because it's surreal. I'm still shocked that such a vitally alive man is not here, and that he died so young. We really thought we'd have into our 90s. So Dava said, "Mom, how about one of your favorite concerts with Dad, Santana?" I said, "Yes, let's do it." And so we went on a road trip, and we went overnight. And it's probably the first time my daughter actually saw me come alive, celebrating Joe's life.
So I knew that the last show they had gone to see was Santana. Jill and I were brought up listening to a lot of music, so it wasn't abnormal for us all to go see different shows and what have you. And when I saw Santana was coming, I immediately looked at the dates, and I saw one landed on Dad's birthday. It was in upstate New York. It's just a few hours. I said, this is what we need to do. Watching Mom enjoy the show was beautiful. I mean, she was in a funk, and I looked at her and I said, "Mom, do you see all these people around you? They're all here we're all here for the same reason, and we're enjoying this show, and the music's beautiful." She said, "Yes, I can feel it." I said, "Do you feel that breeze that's kind of blowing behind us?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "That's Dad giving you a hug." And she just beamed, and we danced in our chairs, and it was beautiful. It was magic. It was magic.
Joe came from Holocaust survivors, and the prejudice that I experienced growing up was blatant. I mean, I was punched in the stomach, all that stuff. But as time went on, with everything that's going on out there, all the hate in the world, and the prejudice and the anti-Semitism, I have to tell you that I'm very blessed with the circle of women and men that are around me. I know it's there, and I feel so badly for everybody that has to face the inhumanity and the cruelty and the stupidity of making the masses, separate. There's a line of demarcation. We're more alike than we're different. So I have not experienced the anti-Semitism in the work that I do. And I'm very grateful, because I did growing up. It was really hard.
When I lost my dad, I lost my best friend. He and I talked multiple times a day, and he was my go-to. So not just for business, for personal life, it could have been anything. We were on the phone, we were talking, and he had the ability to, if I was at 100, to take me down to a 0 pretty quickly. He was everything to me. He really was. I thought I had more time. I think that still sticks with me. I just had this feeling that he wasn't going to go anywhere. Not for a very long time. So I think there were so many things going on. When he passed, I'm not exactly sure I had time to grieve at that moment. It dropped me. When I heard the news, I was with my children, and I literally dropped to the floor. I don't know if I would have gotten back up had it not been for my kids. At the time, my twins were 3. They needed mom to stand up and to take care of them. So I had to get up and make sure that they were okay. And then I had to make sure my mom was okay.
It was the huge, unexpected shock, as well as everything else that came wafting at me, because everything did. And I didn't know how to do a lot of things in accounting or bookkeeping or, all sorts of things that I needed to all of a sudden do. And all I really wanted to do was just more.
Something I would say to other women looking for guidance would be to believe in yourself, believe in your viability, that you can be an expert in something, whether it's normally male-dominated or not. Ironically, I also found myself in powerlifting, which tends to, again, be more male-driven, but there's a great group of ladies that lift, and I found myself empowered with them as well. And if there were challenges on the job site when I would go to the gym and they would say, let's just do this, and you just have to pick it up and whatever, and then I'd leave there feeling this is great, and I'd call my carpenter, I'd say, okay, so this is how we're going to handle this, and it was all of a sudden clear. When I walked into the gym, it was all fuzzy, and when I left, it was like, okay, this is how we're going to handle this. And so, not that they're the same, but I grabbed power from one and brought it to the other and vice versa. So I definitely lean on that. And to my mom and to my sister's point, I would say that our families and our kids also do a lot of inspiring. And so my son is 14 and he's definitely a sponge, and he watches very closely. How is work going? Is it hard today? Yes, it is. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do this to make sure. So it's very helpful, I think, to have the youth looking at you as a sponge to see how you react, because then you really look inside yourself and go, well, how would I want them to react in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just have to do it. I have to pick myself up and do it. Are you stressed? Yes. But wait 5 minutes and then come ask me again.
To other women, this is what I would say. Resiliency is what both of my daughters have, and I have too. I think you need to be able to be honest with yourself and articulate, maybe on paper, maybe journaling, what it is that you're really feeling, knowing that the sun is going to come up the next day, and that you have to grieve, but you also have to find pieces of sunshine to put in your life whenever you can. I know my life is never going to be the same. Their lives are never going to be the same. So I know you're almost at a place called doing the best you can, taking one foot, even if you have to move it yourself, to get to the next step. And acknowledging yourself and knowing that the person that you lost or the loss that you're dealing with, that they're there and they're happy. I believe that you're doing as much as you can, but it is a very difficult journey.
I'm Jill Petrowsky. I am Dava Seidman.
I'm Gail Petrowsky. These are my daughters, and we are Great American Women.
Thank you for watching Great American Women. If you would like to be considered for a Great American Women episode, drop us a message and let us know. We can't wait to hear your story.